So Cassandra, you return back to May's side, and Cardall promised that the Legion, obviously the Legion is all dwarves and there are no mage dwarves, but they do have a healer, just like a regular physician healer on staff, and she is there, standing over Mayveris, looking her over, and when you head back to her bedside, she says, "Oh, you're Cassandra, right?"
Yes.
Yeah, Cardall told me to take a look at your friend here. She says, I have kind of bad news.
Worse than the fact that she's dying of the blight?
Immediately bad news. She's no longer responsive to pain, which means she's in a coma.
Oh, that is bad news.
I see.
She says we need to get her up to the surface ASAP. Although, at this point I guess it's not really my place to say.
6 days, Cardall said, to the surface. Would she last that long?
I don't know. Maybe. She needs an infusion of fluids intravenously, and, if we can find a mage, but it sounds like she's the only healer you guys know. That's rough luck.
Yeah. Rough luck indeed.
I'll do what I can.
Thank you.
She awkwardly pats your arm and heads off.
Great. Love that. Great night.
Wonderful. Good and great and awesome. So, Leander, Elian, has been watching this conversation on the other side of the fire. And he's tranquil. So the emotion is barely there in the first place, but he is still staring at it very intently.
Yeah, I feel like Elian's also pretty preoccupied by it. He's also aware of how filthy he is and how awful that was, and he's stressed out about the possibility of being tainted, not knowing for days. That's great. Love that.
When you do approach him, he turns to you and he gestures to his lap.
I think Elian just kind of smiles very, very weakly and definitely takes him up on it and just sits down and then lays his head down.
It has become a habit these last few nights, Elian. Ever since it worked so well for you the first time, to fall asleep with your head in Leander's lap. He strokes his fingers through your hair and he breathes slow. You think he'd hum if he could? It's the thought that counts, you suppose. You're still thinking of May, of course. It's hard not to. Even as sick as she was these past weeks, she was still a light in the party that refused to go out. Her absence is felt deeply, like a missing limb.
I hope we can get back topside in time,
you say. Leander hums non-committally.
Who knows how much longer May's going to...
Mayveris is stronger than even she realizes, is Leander's assessment, and we're making good time. Silence again. Long fingers in your hair, stroking absently. You watch for a while without saying anything. The movements seem almost meditative for him, less a gesture of comfort and more a type of idleness, a way to keep his hands busy in still moments. There's a voice in the back of your head, compassion's you can't help but suspect, a warning not to ask. You've heard his answer before. Still...
You're really sure?
About what?
About...
You sigh. Don't say it, the same warning voice repeats, and then you say it.
About the ritual. I know this is what you want more than anything. I understand it must be hell, living as a tranquil, but surely it's better than not living at all.
The fingertips stop. There's no emotion betrayed on his face, of course.
Look at what's happening to May,
you say.
We failed once before. If we can't trust this magic to work...
It's not better. Your words trip and fall off your lips.
What's not?
It's not better than living at all. I thought by now you'd have understood that. You flinch. You'd heard, of course, and understood his veiled insinuations, but you'd hoped they were just that. Actually thinking about it, about how Leander would rather be dead than tranquil.
Suicide isn't an option, Leander,
you say before you can stop yourself. It is if I can't be free, he answers at once. Despite yourself, you feel a surge of anger and fear. Does he really not get it?
How am I supposed to go on without you?
How am I supposed to go on as tranquil?
Better alive and tranquil than dead.
For who? You? There's anger in his voice, but not a lot of it. He struggles to make it apparent. You might be happier having a barely sentient elf-shaped bed warmer, Elian, but I assure you that for me it is hell beyond description. You bristle.
It's not what I meant to imply.
You say through your teeth. Isn't it? Because from where I'm standing, it sounds like you'd rather have me alive and miserable for you, rather than dead on my own terms. Anger knots in your throat, broils in your stomach.
I don't want to have this conversation.
You say, which is true, but precisely why is a matter of some debate. You started it, Leander answers waspishly, and I intend to finish it. It is absolutely imperative that you understand this, Elian, because clearly you don't. This is not about you. You purse your lips. He stares down at you, gaze hard and flat and cold like ice. My happiness is not dependent on you. I am incapable of happiness unless my tranquility is broken. And if it cannot be broken, I cannot be happy.
So I don't make you happy,
you say, and regret it at once, because you know the answer. No, Elian, you don't. You can't. You sit up and don't turn back. You knew, of course, you'd always known this to be logically true. Hearing it spoken out loud is another matter.
So you'd rather kill yourself than live as tranquil?
Yes. You grit your teeth. And I do not understand why this is so offensive to you. 1,000 reasons rise to the fore of your mind. The chant urges us to honor life. Suicide is a sin in the eyes of the Maker. Because it would break my heart into pieces, you don't say out loud. It's not about you, you can all but hear Leander reply. Fine, Leander says, after an extended stretch of silence. I do not require your consent or your understanding, and I suppose it was foolish to hope that I'd ever have your empathy. After all, the tranquil in Orlais never seemed to complain. You turn. The comment stings more than you thought it would.
Leander.
Good night, Elian, he says, and stands to walk away. The first thing you see, Cassandra, is Maevaris. She's in a well-appointed drawing room, which you recognize immediately as being in the Tylani estate. She's draped across a chaise, blonde curls spilling down her neck. Beneath her, fingers tracing patterns on her back, is a handsome red-haired dwarf. She's all but laying on top of him, staring adoringly up at his face. She's so in love with him. Knowing this feels like knowing gravity. It's so simple and obvious that you almost don't even notice it. "We're in her dream," Faith says from beside you, but you aren't startled. Somehow, you knew she was here. How else could you be in May's dream like this?
Is that...
Thorold Tethris, Faith explains. Her late husband. I've been in her dreams a few times now. He features a lot. So this, you think, is the man who won Maevaris' heart. You didn't really know what to expect. You've always been nervous just to bring him up, secretly worried, perhaps, that the asking would somehow injure Maevaris even more than she had been. He's handsome, you notice, idly. This isn't really the dream, Faith continues.
What?
It is, but it isn't. She's changing it, but only barely. All you have to do is scratch the surface to see the real dream. A shimmer, a shift. The positions don't change, but everything else does. Maevaris still lies draped across Thorold, but she's not smiling, she's sobbing. Thorold is still lying beneath her, but now you can see blood running out of his mouth. He's not held upright by the chaise, but by a large garden stone over which his back is unnaturally bent. Maevaris isn't curled up in her husband's arms, you realize. She's weeping over his broken body.
Oh.
You say, miserably, stomach twisting and heart sinking. You'd always wondered what had happened to him. Now you rather wish you didn't. It was assumed an accident, Faith explains unhappily, scrawny arms folding over her chest. He fell from the balcony off into this music room. He played there all the time and drank, too. The initial assumption was that he got a bit too drunk and just But it wasn't an accident. You jump, spin. Maeveris is now standing beside you, somehow, watching as the facsimile of herself still sobs over Thorold's corpse. She's staring at the scene like she'd rather be looking at anything else. My marriage to Thorold was arranged, you see, by my mother, who wanted to prove that I really wasn't a woman by taking a husband. She chose Thorold, assuming that I'd be so disgusted that I don't know, give up and be a man? I'm sure she didn't expect for me to fall in love with him. You frown. Under the Kyun, this sentiment would be nonsense. No one would try to prove an Acunathlock to be anything other than what they are. You barely understand why Maeveris' mother would be upset at all. But he was a political match at the core. He owned 2 large lyrium mines, you see, and several contracts with Tevinter circles. My marriage would secure a powerful alliance with the Ambassadoria, which it did, or it would have.
I don't understand.
You say, because you don't. Maeveris had been married, hadn't she? She had the ring. It was never a legal marriage, Maeveris explains, because I was never legally a woman, a fact that Magister Timon Verilian decided to exploit. He stands in front of you then, tall and spindly, with a hawkish nose and slicked back, dun-brown hair. Maeveris regards him coldly. The fall was perfectly staged. Too perfect. So I dug into it. Timon Verilian had hired an Antivan crow to kill him before any legal paperwork had been drawn up naming me Thorold's formal inheritor. Our marriage never being formally recognized, it would throw the ownership of Thorold's holdings into doubt.
But you were his wife.
You say.
You are a woman.
You don't need to convince me, darling, Maeveris says. I have never required anyone's permission to be who I am. But Tevinter's legal system is another beast entirely. And Maker, it would have been nice if the marriage had been formally acknowledged. If it had been recognized as legitimate, maybe Verilian would have seen no need to act. Maybe Thorold. Maeveris' voice breaks. Your heart breaks with it. You reach out to touch her shoulder, but it flickers out from under your reach. In surprise, you draw your hand back. It's the blight, Faith whispers to you. It's eaten away at so much of her soul that in the fade she's insubstantial. A spike of fear joins the ocean of grief.
Kadan,
you say, but Maeveris keeps talking. So I took my vengeance. The scene shifts. You're no longer in the Tylani estate back garden. You're out in front of a splendid manor on the coast of the sea. It's burning vigorously, orange flames reaching at least 50 feet into the sky, releasing a massive funnel of black smoke. Outside, servants and slaves scamper frantically, bringing back buckets of water up from the ocean to douse the flames, though their efforts are woefully inadequate. The fire's already chewing up the very bones of the house. Another shift. You're inside a flaming hallway. Magister Timon Verilian is navigating a smoke-filled corridor. The curtains beside him are fully engulfed. He's calling out for his slaves, but no one can hear him over the roar of the inferno. Maeveris, beside you, lights both hands with magic and brings a rafter down in front of him. It crashes through the floor and blocks his exit. She stares at him hatefully as he stumbles backwards. I spared his slaves, of course, she says, and his wife and daughter. A courtesy he did not deserve, I grant, but I was not willing to sink to his level. She steps daintily over the flaming rafter and crouches down beside him. He lies pathetically on the floor, his cries for help getting weaker as he slowly suffocates on the smoke. She sets him on fire with a gesture, a flick of her finger. He screams and thrashes and tries to scramble away. He doesn't make it that far before all efforts cease. Then she rises, and the scene shifts one last time. You're now back where you started, in the sitting room of the Tylani estate. You watch as she sits down on the chaise, folding over herself and into herself, her hands clasped together by her breastbone. So now you know the whole story, she says miserably. Now you know the whole ugly affair.
Kadan,
you say, and go to sit beside her. You put your hand on her back, and the pressure of it seems to snap something thin and frail at the core of her. She doubles over, buries her face in her hands, and sobs. Desperate and alarmed, you pull her into your arms.
Please don't cry.
I'm so sorry, Melila.
You have nothing to be sorry for.
But I do, she says, and grips the front of your robe with both hands. I've been sitting on this grief for so long that I've forgotten what it means to exist without it. I want to love you as you deserve to be loved, but I feel like Thorol took a piece of me with him when he went, and I'll never...
Kadan,
You say again, though speaking hurts.
you just need time.
The one thing I can't have. She laughs, bitter. Of course. But you can. It's Faith. In all the emotion, you'd nearly forgotten that she was there. She's sitting on the floor, on her knees, staring earnestly up at the pair of you. The ceremony, she says. There's something heavy in her voice, but it's inscrutable. It only failed because of your grief, Mayveris. Mayveris's words break off with a sob. I can't fix it. I can't. I'm sorry. It still hurts too much. I know, Faith says, but I can.
What?
The spirit of mercy we summoned wouldn't sacrifice itself for someone who didn't have the will to live, but I will.
What?
Faith, Mayveris says, startled out of her sorrow. I can't ask you to do that. You don't have to, Faith says, serene. I want to.
But that would kill you.
Well, yes and no, Faith says. So much of you has already been eaten up by the blight, Mayveris. The amount of myself that I need to fill in the gaps in your soul, it wouldn't really be you in the end. It wouldn't really be me either. It would be both of us, and neither of us. Two sets of memories, one fused personality. She'd be a new person. Not unfamiliar, but also not the same. Mayveris doesn't seem to know what to say. You don't either. You'd never imagine that Faith would do such a thing, offer so much for you. I've been watching you for a while, Mayveris, Faith continues. I know the pain you're in. I've lived through it myself. You don't want to die. You just want to stop hurting. And right now it feels like death is the only way to achieve that. But it's not. Time can heal you too. Let me give it to you. Mayveris stares at her, thunderstruck. Then her eyes lower to her lap. There must have been some truth to Faith's assessment, and for the first time in a long time, Cassandra, you feel just a little pinprick of something in your heart. Hope, you realize. Mayveris doesn't want to die, she just wants the pain to stop. Maybe, you think, maybe. That... Faith, that's such a tremendous sacrifice, Mayveris says eventually. Cassandra loves you, Faith says, as though it's an explanation. And You feel a surge of something else in your heart.
You what?
You ask her urgently. Faith avoids your eyes. She's silent for a long time. I want to help, she says, eventually, evasively. And I can. I should. I can do this. I want to do this. I should do this. Silence, then. You can't say how long. Days, maybe. Centuries. Eventually, Mayveris looks at you. It won't fix the grief, Mayveris says to you. I won't be able... I'll still be too broken to love you like you deserve, Melila. And who knows for how long? Are you all right to wait for me? You nearly laugh. What an absurd question.
For you, Kadan, for you, I'd wait forever.
You all sit down. You have a very fast breakfast because, Cardall appreciates the fact that, you need to get to the surface pretty quick. One of you is in a coma. One of you needs to get to a healer stat. And you are all sitting around the fire, having a very fast breakfast. And it is only at that point, Sabri, you realize that Lennon did not answer the glyph tonight.
Oh. Huh. I get very concerned. That's very concerning.
Mm-hmm.
I think I seek out Cassandra.
Okay. So Cassandra, you had a the dream was emotional, but it wasn't not hopeful.
Right, exactly.
Like, you have a hesitant plan.
Yeah.
So how are you feeling, Cassandra?
That little pinprick of hope before, it's getting a little bigger, like, yeah, okay, now there might be something we can do, okay. A little better. Tiny bit.
Where I guess you're just, hanging out.
Yeah, we're all...
Yep, you're all having breakfast.
I sort of, go over to you quietly, because I still don't like admitting that I do things like ask people to do magic for me. Was there anything weird about that? You were really busy last night, obviously, so maybe the glyph, you didn't do the right thing, didn't charge it with magic the right way. That sound familiar?
We did it exactly the same as we did it before, Sabre.
Also, there's no way Sabre could know this, but charging something with mana is kid stuff.
Right?
It's the first thing they teach you in magic.
Did you plug it in?
Yeah, it's like the magic equivalent of plugging the computer in.
Right. I'm just looking at him like he's 5 years old, we did it exactly the same way.
You're sure? You're you're positive? Nothing weird happened that would have caused it to fail.
Nothing weird. I am a mage, after all.
Sure, that doesn't make sense, but okay.
It means that you're asking someone who knows more about it than you do. I know what I'm doing.
Landon never showed up last night. He's never not done that before.
I see. That is concerning.
It's much more concerning now that you're saying that it wasn't you. I don't know what it would be.
Cassandra, roll arcane lore. Alright, so, you were trained Sarabas. You were trained how to explode things, and, not much past that.
Yep.
You have a very basic understanding of glyphs, because your Arvara did teach you, there are some glyphs that explode when you walk on them. So, you're familiar with basic glyph work. The glyph that Lannon used for calling, it's a lot more complicated than just the explodey glyphs. Your limited understanding of it is such that whenever Lannon dreamwalks, because he is a Somniari, whenever he dreamwalks at night, it calls out to him like a beacon of light through the fog. So it's possible that he just did not dreamwalk last night, or maybe he just didn't sleep. Maybe that's what it could be. That.
Well, maybe he wasn't sleeping.
I'm about to say something, and I should check with Tessa. He always, right? He's not the sleepless type.
I mean, he didn't have, your impression, when he was Inquisitor, he did not have great self-care habits. He frequently skipped meals, he frequently skipped sleep, but, he knows where you are. He wouldn't do that this time, right? He wouldn't, in case you needed him, he'd want to sleep.
I just sort of nod my head slowly at Cassandra, and I'm like, maybe that's it. Maybe that's it. That's gotta be it.
And you do have, you've got 6 more nights before you make it topside, so you could just keep trying it.
Yeah. We'll try it. Would you be willing to do this with me again tonight?
Of course.
Thank you. I'm not used to worrying.
But here's the thing. You do make good progress with the Legion of the Dead. They are very familiar with the deep roads, so they know just where to go to make very good time to get topside. And you do get 5 more nights of sleep, and you cast the glyph every night, and Lannon never shows up.
Okay, now it's not good. Now I'm not happy.
And by the time you make it back to Orzammar, Orzammar, intractable, stubborn, a massive city that refuses to change. It is still resplendent when you come stumbling out of the same entrance that you went through, right up into the commons, the common quarter of Orzammar. And wow, there sure is a lot of light in Orzammar. Has it always been this bright here?
Oh, I hate that. Love it and hate it.
Leander is going to be the first to volunteer. I am very anxious to take a breath of fresh air.
Same.
Yes.
Right behind you.
Talkin's oh man, and a drink? A proper drink.
Yeah.
I do miss all of those things, but also I need to
And I mean, and Talgan says, "Hey, you made it all the way back up to the surface. You haven't been experiencing any signs of the blight, right?" And he like thumps you two on the back, like Sabre with one hand and Elian with the other. Like, yeah, you haven't been showing any signs of the blight.
Is that true?
Yeah, that's true. Now that you are back in Orzammar, I can tell you the TN was 13, and now you only beat it by 1.
Oh God!
Oh, thank God. Well, you know what? The worry about the blight has overtaken by the worry about my boyfriend being dead.
Right,
So
right.
now I'm more concerned about that. And I'm just like, we need to find news of what has happened. Who could we talk to?
He says, I mean, we could just go back to headquarters, couldn't we? Back up to Tevinter. And take a boat across to Kirkwall, and then just head straight through the Alluvion to Tevinter.
That's a very long time. Is there anyone here who maybe would know what's going on? I'm like gonna look for somebody like...
Don't we have to deliver the thing to King Balin too?
Ah, frack.
Yeah, you do gotta do that.
Yeah. Maybe we can get somebody to send a bird to somebody? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, Ren summoned the Lucerni with a bird to Orzammar, and that is a thing that you could do. You did not have a plan for anyone to be hanging behind in Orzammar waiting for you, because there wasn't a firm time on when you knew you would be out. So it was just kind of like, when you guys are out, come back to Minrathous. You know, like, just, we'll be waiting for you. We'll leave the light on if you get there in the middle of the night.
Cass is definitely very much like, we also need to get May to a healer immediately.
Yeah.
Yes, she has been in a coma the entire way back.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which is not super great.
Nope.
But she has been attended pretty much consistently by the Legion healer, the Legion physician, who seems to know her stuff. Like, she's no Maevaris, but she knows what she's doing.
Right.
And the physician says, okay, well, as a physician, I feel like it's my duty to, fight for my patients. So how about we break off? I will go straight through to Kirkwall with Maevaris, and then a portion of us can go to King Balin to, do whatever it is you needed to do from him. We probably need formal orders, she says, like, looking at Cardal, and Cardal nods, like, we'll need a formal order from King Balin to go topside. Who wants to go to Minrathous, and who wants to stay behind? Like, eventually you're all gonna go to Minrathous, but,
I would like to go.
Yeah, Cass is gonna go with May. Like, I'm not gonna leave her.
Yeah, that's fair.
I want, like, news of the outside world, like, now.
Alright, and Elian, it sounds like you're gonna stay behind in Orzammar, turn in the quest for King Balin.
Yep, I'm sticking with Talgan.
Leander thinks about it, and he decides to go topside.
Yep.
He has not forgotten the fight. He's a little bit salty about it, and also he really wants to go outside. Like, he really wants some fresh air. Yeah.
Elian wants a bath and fresh air and to not be fighting and a drink and all of this, but fine, we'll do the thing we came to first.
So you and Talgan, you all walk together across the commons, and then when you get to the door, like, the rest of one of you is going to have to go this way, the other group's going to have to go this way. When you get to that juncture, Talgan says to the rest of you, he says, all right, well, safe travels. We'll meet you back in Minrathous as soon as we can. And he looks very regretfully at Maevaris, who's still on a stretcher, unconscious, and he, like, pats her hand, and he looks up at you sympathetically, because he says, swift travels.
Thank you. Good luck to you guys, too.
We'll be there as soon as we can.
And you peel away. So, Elian.
Yep.
You and Talgan head into the Diamond Quarter together, with Cardal and most of the Legion of the Dead. And Cardal is saying, so you've met King Balin, right? And Talgan's like, unfortunately.
You said it, not me.
Cardal says, no, I agree. We serve him, but we don't have to be nice to him. He says, there's no point in trying to get on his good side. He doesn't have a good side. So just, do what you came here to do. He appreciates brevity and efficiency. So do you want to go straight to King Balin, or do you want to, like, take a shower first?
Oh, God. Like, cleaning up before seeing a king, like...
Yeah, it's probably a good idea, so yeah.
The Orlesian.
So you stop by in one of the upscale Diamond Quarter taverns. Cardal doesn't get it. Cardal spends his whole life in the Deep Roads. Grime is just his daily life. He's like, okay, you want to get cleaned up? I mean, I guess. That's fine, sure. I mean, if you want to, I guess.
Getting any last trace of Darkspawn blood away from my face, yes, I do want to do that first.
And it's not just in your face, fam. It's under your
Oh
fingernails.
god, I know. It's everywhere.
It's,
and like
it's behind your
ugh.
ears. It's in your hair.
Oh god. Like, Elian thought that it was bad at the very, 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 very beginning of this podcast when he'd been captured by slavers. No.
Oh, you have not known suffering. So you all decide, okay, before we go talk to King Balin, let's go have a shower, clean the blood out of our hair, let's have a meal. It is quite late, you think. Again, Orzamar's underground, so you're not 100% sure, but you're tired. So you just all decide, like, communally, okay, we'll do it in the morning.
Yeah.
So that leaves us with the other group heading out. Sabri, are you doing anything besides determinedly going to Minrathous?
Power walking.
Power walking. Looking intensely at everyone. I don't know, like, I can't, like, this is the thing. I'm not magical. I don't know any way to how to, like, contact anyone. I think I'm just pacing, right? Like, I'm just determinedly going to Minrathous and also worrying, but mostly internally. I was trying to find out, like, if there's anybody who's known, like, what's going on. Like, has anyone heard of any battles in Tevinter? Like,
So let's set up a scene. So you are on the first ship that you can find that takes you from what's the nearest port. You probably have to go to Highever. That takes you from Highever to Kirkwall, and there it's a busy port town. Highever is a huge city. Well, it's Ferelden big.
Yeah.
It's not like Minrathous makes it look like a kid's castle, like a dollhouse. But it's big for Ferelden, and it's definitely a city. It's got a large port that's bustling with people. So how does Sabri tackle this wanting to find news? I am very interested to know.
oh god. Badly.
Just grabbing people.
Okay, how in this fantasy world, how do you normally get news? Surely there's, I guess you know what, he's used to being Dalish. No, he's worked in big cities before. Is there like a town square I can go to?
This is confirmed to be pre-printing press, so there's no
Okay.
newspaper or anything. There would usually be a crier.
I was like the Chanter's Board, where you get all of your side quests.
There's the Chanter's Board as well. The Chanter's Board is really more odd jobs and stuff like that, but there are occasionally they do post big news there, that kind of thing. Of course, that's the Chantry, so you'd have to go to a Chantry.
Right.
Maybe a bard if it's a smaller town, like a traveling bard.
That sounds all very challenged. Okay, fine. I'm going to the first inn I see, and as I go up and I go to the bar, and I'm just like, tell me the news.
You say that to the bartender?
Yes. They know things, right?
Yes. The average Joe Schmo bartender, very familiar with the goings-on of battles and international politics. The bartender eyes you and he says, it depends. You gonna order a drink?
I stare at him, and I mutter something under my breath about capitalism. And then I reluctantly put a few coins down and say, sure, a beer.
Good choice, Elf. And then he pours you a beer. And it's Ferelden beer, so it sucks. And he says, news from where?
Tevinter, Minrathous, anywhere, honestly. Battles? Have you heard of any battles?
He says, well, I heard of a battle. Not in Tevinter, though. I heard it was in northern Navarra.
Where the fuck is that?
Navarra is just south of Tevinter. It's a kingdom, I think, technically.
That's...
It shares a border with Tevinter.
Do you know with who?
I says, Darkspawn, I think.
And any news of who triumphed?
He says, well, the fact that civilization itself is still standing is a pretty good indication that the Darkspawn didn't win. I heard it was led by the Inquisitor.
I grip the table really tightly. And any news as to, did the Inquisitor survive?
No. Well, it's not that I know of.
Oh, this has just made me feel worse. I get up and I say thanks, and I go back to the party.
Leaving the shitty Ferelden beer?
Oh yes, absolutely. I'm not drinking that swill.
Yeah. You come back out and Cass is like, how'd it go?
Battle outside of Tevinter that was apparently led by Lannon, and no one knows if he's alive.
To be fair, that one specific bartender doesn't know that he's
Right?
alive.
I'm sorry. Do you remember who you're talking to?
I know. It just needs to be said.
Well, there are more taverns along the way.
I don't want ale, Cassandra.
Don't you, though?
I mean, not this nonsense.
That's true. Not here.
Not this Ferelden piss. So Cardal accompanies you, along with a few higher ranking members of the Legion of the Dead, Elian, to see King Balin. Talgan is with you because he has to be there. He's a plot essential NPC in this particular. And you all make your way down the chamber of the assembly, where it is mostly empty. King Balin sort of sits recumbent upon his throne, and when the steward announces your presence, he looks up and he says, "Ah, I see you have returned. Honestly, it was sort of up in the air whether or not you would."
Indeed, we have, Majesty.
Good news, I hope?
Glad over at Talgan. You want to do this? You want me to do it?
Talgan doesn't want to do it, but he will if you insist.
Indeed, we found the Tig, and we brought something back, as you mentioned we needed to.
Excellent. He stands up. He heads down the steps leading up to his throne, and he says, "Let's see it. What'd you bring back? Is it good?"
I guess Elian pulls it out of his bag.
The king leans up a little bit. He's like peering at it. He says, "Is that lyrium tempered glass?"
We believe so.
Talgan says, "I was listening to the Meiji people in the party explain it. They said it's some sort of containment apparatus. I'm not 100% sure on what it is. It seems old and powerful." And Balin, he's like, "All right." Like, he's not the least bit interested in what this thing was. And he's like, "All right, yeah, no, that seems fine. I'll need to borrow it. You, my friend," and he like thumps Talgan on the back, "are going to present it. And then I am going to announce to all of Orzammar that House Dunmoral is back in action. How does that sound?" Talgan's like, "It sounds shitty, to be perfectly honest. I'd rather not." The King Balin's like, "Oh, well, that sucks to be you then, doesn't it?" And Talgan's like, "We do need it for something. Like, we think we have a use for it.
Yeah.
So if we can keep it." Balin's like, "Yeah, sure, who cares? This is not about whatever this thing is. I don't give a fuck. This is all about me getting at the shaper of memories." And Talgan's like, "Yeah, no, I remember."
Elian just rolls his eyes.
And he says, "I'll go ahead and I'll call a chamber meeting, huh? How does that sound?" Talgan's like, "Again, sounds pretty bad, but I guess I'll do it." So, Elian, you staying for this is a character choice. If you want to, help Talgan with this, like obviously, if you don't stay, it's gonna work out fine. Like, Talgan will have the thing, whatever it is, the big old crystal or whatever. He'll bring it back to Minrathous as soon as he can get away. But whether or not you stay with him is it's up to you. It's a character choice.
So I guess, have we finished up with the king? Are we just like...
You're still in the same room with him. He is now talking to his steward about something. Like, he's talking about calling a meeting of the Chamber of the Assembly.
Talgan? Do you need me to stay with you? I'm really worried about May.
He says, No, I understand. It's time sensitive with her, and it sounds like the guest in your head is the only one who can really do it. I get it. It's fine if you need to go.
You know that I wouldn't if it were for anything else.
It's fine. It's fine. He says, "Besides, there's something and he hesitates. "There's something I want to check in the shaper it."
Oh. Okay.
It won't hold me up too long, I promise. It's just... Well, I guess it doesn't matter.
I don't know what I can say, but I'm sorry that you had to go through this, but I'm very glad that you were there to help us.
He says, "Yeah, you owe me. Like,
Big time.
You owe huge.
I
like,
will find
several rounds of drinks."
Yes, the best brandy I can find.
And he kind of thumps you on the back and he says, "It's all right. Go get to High Ever."
Okay.
Even, like, it shouldn't be a long journey, but because of the Alluvion, it kind of is. Like, as soon as you get across from High Ever to Kirkwall, it's literally just, you go to Lannon's house and you take the Alluvion. And that's it. That's the journey. All the way to fucking Tevinter from Orzammar, and it took you like a day. You get inside, and you are greeted by no one. Actually, the estate's pretty quiet. There are still some servants that are crisscrossing in the halls, and the first thing you see is, like, you look around, like I said, it feels very empty. But eventually, you head into the dining room, and you see Dorian sitting at a table going over some correspondence.
I run in. He's gonna hate this, but I don't give a shit. Dorian, where's Lannon? Is Lannon okay?
He looks up. He doesn't answer immediately, which is kind of telling.
Oh no!
What?
He says, he was the commander of the army, such that we have. That is, the Darkspawn horde came up in northern Navarra, and he had to act quickly. He's alive, but he's
what?
He's upstairs.
I just start running upstairs.
You run upstairs, and it doesn't take a lot of time to find him, because the door is guarded by 2 Inquisition honor guards, the ones that refused to leave the service of the Herald of Andraste even after he gave up his inquisitorship. And there is you can tell, a healer who is immediately coming out, wiping her hands on a cloth, and you almost run into her. She's like, ah!
How is he? What's going on?
Says, who are you?
I'm Sabray.
I don't, listen, he's resting. You really shouldn't go inside.
I push past her.
You throw open the door. Lannon is sitting propped up on a pile of pillows on the bed. He's got one of those little, like breakfast in bed, like tray thingies that sits over his lap. He looks beat to fuck. He has like a huge, still healing gash across one eye. It looks like it almost cut his head in half. But now at this point, it is like someone, obviously a healer, got to him very, very quickly and managed to stem the worst of it. He looks up as soon as the door slams open, and he stares at you for a minute, and he says, "Oh, hey."
I rush over. What the fuck did you do?
I commanded an army. What do you think happened?
I asked you to stay safe. Are you okay? What's going on?
There was an army I had to command. Look, I did my best, and I'm alive, aren't I? And I have most of the use of my leg.
I don't know. I'm patting him down frantically.
What, are you expecting to find another missing limb?
Maybe. What happened? Why didn't you answer my call at night? And I thought maybe you were dead. And I
Well, no, I wasn't dead. I was in a coma.
I'm just staring at him in abject horror. Just I think I just take a really heavy seat. Just I sit down and I just sort of stare at him, and I'm like, I thought you were dead.
Sorry? It's the best he can do.
I kiss him really hard.
He does seem to appreciate it. And he has to move the little table on his lap away, but he lets you sit down next to him in the bed. And he's silent for a long time, and he says, this is almost better, because this has distracted you from the letter that's sitting on the desk over there.
What?
He says, before you jump up and read it, let me just break the ice to you. Just before I marched the army into Navarra, Hawk found me. He wasn't really sure how to break the news to you, so he wrote it down in a letter, and he left it with me.
I sit up. I'm this is bad.
Sabray, Hawk found Meryl.
I have to be holding something so I can drop it. He what? Where is she?
He's like, please, Vinon, sit down.
I look at him. Do you have any idea how long I've been?
Yes, I do. Please sit down.
I sit down reluctantly.
He says, she has been taking care of refugee elves outside of Tantervale. Doing some rudimentary healing and helping orphans find new families, that kind of thing. It's been her pet project ever since the Mage Templar rebellion began.
Some sort of penance.
I don't know, maybe. But he knows where she is. She's outside Tantervale, like I said. He says that if you want him to, he can go with you, but he'll understand if you don't want him to go with you. Fenris offered the same courtesy.
I think this is something I need to do with family only.
He says, Are you planning on killing her?
I don't... A year ago I would have said yes. Now I just know that I need to confront her.
Okay. Well, like I said, Hawk's willing to take you there if necessary, and of course I'll go with you if you want me to. I'm not... I can't use my leg super well right now.
What happened to your leg?
Oh, a darkspawn tried to chew it off?
Feels like I was the one who should have been careful. You were telling me to be careful in the...
Listen, I had to command an army, okay? I had to command an army.
I didn't have to command an
Who the fuck else would have commanded an army?
army.
Do you have battlefield experience?
No, that's not the point. I've got to tell Ren about this.
Yeah, you sure do.
He's gonna tell me not to kill her.
Probably.
I just sort of sit down exhausted. I'm too tired for all of this.
Same. You want to take a nap together?
Yeah.
True love. So, Elian,
Yep.
you take the boat across, however, to Kirkwall alone. You take the trip up to Lannon's estate alone. You cross the Alluvion alone. But when you come through the Alluvion, Leander is waiting for you. He's perched sort of cat-like on one of the chairs with one leg folded over the other, his foot sort of bobbing.
Leander,
How's Talgan?
he's upset, but he's fine.
I assume he's staying behind for the Chamber of the Assembly.
Yes, he had to do the formal presentation, but he understood when I wanted to come back to see if I could help May.
We should probably do this tonight. She is very sick, conscious, but in and out.
Elian just nods shakily. Yeah, anything.
He nods, he stands up, and he heads to leave as if he's going to go tell Cassandra.
Leander,
He stops, looks back.
I'm sorry
Why?
for what I said.
What specifically do you want to apologize for? Do you understand why I was upset?
I do. It was selfish of me. And I'm sorry. I don't truly understand what it's like, and I can't. But
It is at this point that compassion sort of asserts his presence in the back of your head. And he informs you, Elian, that something is about to happen. He's not giving you an option. Brace yourself.
oh great.
And you don't even really have time to warn Leander that something is about to happen. You open your mouth and suddenly compassion swallows up your consciousness. And then a couple seconds later, you feel a rush and a shift, magic swallowing you up. And before you can even really recognize what's going on, you're back in that little orange grove. You blink a couple times, you try to get your bearings, and Compassion is standing beside you with his arms folded over his chest.
Compassion?
Talk to him.
Okay. Elian knows he fucked up. He looks for Leander's spirit.
He's right where he left him. He is sitting under one of the orange trees, watching as his mother, perpetually with her back to him, hums and picks oranges.
Well, Elian goes over.
When he hears you approach with your footsteps crunching in the dry grass, he looks up and back at you. He says, "Oh, I'll be honest, I kind of wasn't expecting you to come back."
I wasn't sure if I would either. We had a very big fight. And I need to...
I think I know. A little bit of something came through one of the cracks. Did you hurt me? Not physically. I don't think I can sense physical pain, but was I upset with you?
That's a very nice way of putting it.
What'd you do? Look, maybe we shouldn't talk about it. He reaches out and grabs your wrist and like pulls you down. He says, this is the second time I've even got to see you. I don't want to spend it talking about negative stuff.
I said...
Hey, I just said I don't want to talk about negative stuff. Can I try something?
Elliot looks up at him.
There's this thing that I've wanted to try. See, with just my own magic in here, there's not a whole lot I can do. Just make these little flimsy illusions of sight and sound. But now that you're here, I might be able to try something else. He says, you see, inside everyone, even non-mages, even dwarves, there's a little shard of magic at the core of you. It's what gives you your emotions and your dreams. And he says, and now that I've got 2 of that in here, I think I might be able to, maybe if I try, I might be able to do something. He says, do you trust me?
I do.
He reaches out and takes both of your hands in his, and he says, all right, let's try this. And he looks up, and suddenly the orange grove is swallowed up by this starscape. The 2 of you are floating in it, like this river of stars, a galaxy almost, that's swirling in all directions, and you can feel it. He's doing the casting for you, but it feels a bit like when Compassion was doing the casting for you. He's reaching in and using the magic that is already extant inside of you, and using it to cast this spell. And this spell, this little piece of illusion magic, is breathtaking. It's beautiful. It's the most incredibly ecstatically beautiful thing that you have ever seen. And Leander reaches up with one hand. The whole thing shifts and shimmers, and it changes different colors in this spiral around you. He says, when I was really little, like maybe 9 or 10, I had just found out that I was a mage. And there was that big festival. I wish I could remember, but it was so long ago. It was held in the Minrathis Square. And I saw one of the performers just light up the air around us with stars. You could touch them and move them around, and ever since that day, and he reaches up, he encourages you to do the same, to reach up and take a handful of stars.
I think Elian does, but his eyes are definitely watery. Just seeing how purely joyful he is.
And the stars, you can feel them in your hands, like these little bundles of cool electricity that spark along your nerves. And he says, I have wanted to emulate that ever since, but I never had the strength to. Not when I was just in here on my own.
I promised before that I was going to do everything I could to help you. I still will.
He says, what did I say? No negative stuff. And he takes a big old handful of stars and he blows them at you. And they scatter into your face like pollen off of a tree.
This is beautiful.
He says, you're from the south, right? Orlais?
Yeah, that's right.
They don't have a very good view of magic there.
No.
I think, obviously I can't see everything that's going on outside there. Only little bits and pieces get through. But I think I have this feeling, this nagging sensation that whether or not you know it, that might be at the core of what's between us. This problem, this thing. And I just want you to know that it's not scary. I mean, it can be, but so can a sword or an axe. But swords and axes can also be works of art. They can be beautiful. You just have to know the right way to look at it. There's a little spark of magic in all of us, and I don't know, it seemed important to show you.
I think Elian reaches over and just lays his hands with him, and thank you.
He says, happy to help. come back and see me sometime. Or better yet, just get me the fuck out of here. I'd really like to get out of here.
Let's focus on that last one.
Hey friends, Tessa here. If you're desperate to hear the next episode, chances are good that you can by joining our Discord server. We post links to all episodes and pre-release, and you can even chat with us and listen live as we record. Join us by going to bit.ly/cfcdiscord. For more information on the show, character biographies, and links to social media, head to our website, critfail.club or critfailclub.com. You can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Tumblr. Crit Fail Club does not advertise at all, so if you like what you hear, tell a friend who might also like it, make a post on social media about it, or leave a review on Apple Podcasts. Full episodes are available on our YouTube channel, bit.ly/cfcchannel, or wherever you get your podcasts.